Ladies and gentlemen, this question comes in from Adam Makes Beer on email, so it's from me. But there's an email exchange that I had that was awesome. I just got a flow meter on my O2 source and my oxygen stone that is post my heatex. Well, this is the email I wrote to Alex Gruber at Imperial, and apparently I couldn't write a good email. So I have a flow meter on my O2 source to my oxygen stone, and that oxygen stone is post my heat exchanger, as it should be. It ends up I was running higher O2 rates than the 2 liters per minute I was estimating, potentially quite a bit more. I am noticing that my yeast cakes are smaller now when it comes to harvesting. Is that to be expected? So I am using, and this is not product placement because I just use one. This is when I started using the Blickman flow rate regulator, the oxygen flow rate regulator. I started using it and I set it to 2 liters per minute because that's what I figured that I wanted, right? It wasn't, I set it like that and then my harvests were much smaller. Okay, like I was probably getting, oh gosh, maybe 40% less yeast with some of these batches that I did with less oxygen. And oxygen is tied to yeast growth, so that makes sense. Ultimately, you want to be having enough oxygen to have happy, healthy yeast, have a robust fermentation, yeast that you can repitch, and quality beer in the end, right? I mean that's really the big picture here. I was noticing that I was getting smaller yeast harvests, and I said, "So is that to be expected?" And then the great and powerful Alex Gruber responds, "In a word, yes. I think the tricky thing about putting a value on something you've been doing without a measurement is that it can convince you that you've been doing it wrong the whole time. I tend to advocate for tracking the data that you can, but not letting it determine your SOPs in and of itself." So, what I had found was in order to make the system perform like it normally would, because I figured I was putting two liters per minute through my stone, I had to turn the regulator up on the Blickman one up to like 7 liters, I believe, 7 or 8 liters. And then things went back to normal for me. Alex continues, if the right amount of O2 for your process is 8 liters per minute, then I say go with it. In the end, what works, works. That being said, I do think it's worthwhile to take the science, math, nerdy stuff into account as well. Let's say that 8 liters per minute is the flow rate that gets you the harvest size yeast growth you want. The math says that's way more O2 than necessary. So the question then becomes one of how efficiently is the O2 getting into solution? That's a question that can be looked into along with some other variables and is worth pursuing, in my opinion. But until then, you've got a brewery to run and beers to make. I hope that doesn't come off as too hand wavy. Let me know if you want to discuss it over a call sometime. Once again, Alex Gruber just hitting home runs, just hitting bomb after bomb. Okay. What I liked about that is, sometimes you can get some numbers in your mind that you want to be hitting. I want 1.5 or 2 liters per minute with my oxygen. And you think you have that kind of dialed in because you don't notice ill effects of too much oxygen in your beer. You don't notice like hot fusel alcohols. You don't notice like too much yeast. Your long-term yeast health is good because you're able to repitch it and make consistent beer. I like Alex's approach to this because he's basically saying on some level you do have to trust what you're seeing in the brewery as well. Now, if I was doing this 8 liters per minute and I was seeing negative things happening from it, then it's something that we actually need to look at. There are some downstream things that you can do to test things like this. I don't have access to any of those. And honestly, it's kind of it's a little bit rich kid stuff. There are some things that you can use to be testing O2 levels. in your cool wort as it's going to your fermenter. But also keep in mind, this is for me running oxygen. If you're pumping sterile air in, that's different, and you can just pump away basically with that, because those are two different things. But I like that approach of answering, of the way he answered that question. And it's something that I try to apply across the board when equipment is changing, and sometimes processes change a little bit. Ultimately, you do have to look at the finished product rather than, sweating too hard the small stuff. And you do want to sweat the small stuff. Don't get me wrong. You can't let it just completely freak you out. Thanks for the question, Adam.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you feel as if you got any value out of the video, please like and subscribe. There are also other videos that you can watch. They're gonna maybe be over here or over here. Appreciate you watching.